Majesty. I'm honored by your visit. Just how may I be of service?
I've come into possession of a quatrain that your former secretary says was written by you. Recent events seem to confirm it word for word.
What's it all about?
It's a curse. 12 people are marked to perish before misfortune strikes my family. You have to come see me tomorrow and work to stay out our fate.
Your Majesty, I regret I'm in poor health and I can no longer get about as I used to.
I know you are weak, but I've really no choice. Your secretary doesn't seem qualified, and I know nobody else to whom I might turn.
I could send you my son, Cesar. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. He should return tomorrow evening.
If you have faith in the boy, I'll share your confidence, but he'll have to hurry, for every day brings a new death.
Very well, Your Majesty. You may leave your hiding place, Madeline.
You told her that Cesar would be there tomorrow, but he's not back for at least 10 days.
I'm well aware of that, daughter, but it's hardly important since it's you who will go to the Queen. I'm quite sure you'll do very well. Sure of it. After all, you should find it amusing, I think. What do you say?
That you're pottier and pottier. What makes you think she'll take me for Cesar?
Don't worry. We'll have ample time tomorrow.
Morning.
Good morning, sweetheart. Ready to slip into the skin of your brother?
I think that I am.
In any case, you don't seem afraid of catching cold. Take this case. It'll make you seem more serious in your part, and it might even prove useful to you.
Thank you.
And don't forget, you have to find something to fix your face. Cesar has a darker complexion than you.
Well, Cesar, it's not going to be easy to take your place, but it might be fun. This rope will certainly not take the weight of a full bucket of water. This system is really practical for kneading without getting too tired, but that's on the condition it works. When I have a chance, I'll go to the forge. Maybe I'll find something to repair it with. This system is really practical for when I... There's enough of it. The signs of the zodiac and the parts of the body they influence. All I have to do now is heat the whole thing.
There's no time for discussion. Go put your clothes on and come back to see me.
It's almost perfect. Except maybe for my complexion, you'd think you were seeing César.
That's fine. The outfit is perfect. Now, what about your face? What have you got?
Yes, I found a recipe for coloring cream in Mother's old dressing table.
And you haven't even prepared it yet?
No, not yet, but I'm on my way now. I can't swallow that. I can't swallow that. All I have to do now is heat the whole thing. It must be ready.
If you haven't finished preparing that cream yet, there's no reason to bother me. Perfect. I'll show you in a little while how just a bit of makeup can completely transform a face.
I might fall sick going to the castle. Quarantine hasn't been lifted yet.
Don't worry. As far as I know, there hasn't been a single case of plague.
Then why has everybody fled or shut themselves up in their homes?
People are afraid whenever someone dies from an unknown illness. But believe me, the epidemic of the plague is only a rumor, no doubt stoked by Catherine de Medici's people. She'll go to great lengths to ensure her visit stays as confidential as possible.
Then why did you let Mama and the little ones leave, if there was no danger?
Your mother enjoys travel. I had no reason to hold her back.
I've never met anyone that important. How should I act with Queen Catherine?
Be natural. No one is ever spontaneous with her, yet it's what she appreciates the most. People who are frank and funny.
I'll try.
If you're not comfortable, you could bring her something. Offer her a little jam, for example. She loves that. And above all, take these notes. They'll allow you to calculate her birth chart and learn to know her better, and that way, I'll see if you've retained what I've taught you about astrology.
About the chart. I'm progressing slowly. It's been a long time since you made me do a chart, and I'm out of practice.
It comes back quickly. Anyway, this one shouldn't pose any great problem. Just look closely. You have all the information you need.
It's not yet entirely done. About the chart, I think I've finished.
I was sure you'd do very well. You've always been talented for this sort of activity. But don't forget, the difficulty often lies more in the interpretation of a chart, and especially in the way you present it to the subject. The stars give us orientations, tendencies, but they never predict a certain immutable future. In any case, I'm delighted that you've retained the few rudiments of astrology I taught you. But now that you've reviewed your fundamentals and know how to dress like your brother, you'll have to learn to talk like him. To start, try to pitch your voice right. Then think about what you're saying. César might not give the same answer as you.
All right, let's try.
Say something, anything, to see how you place your voice.
Something. Anything.
Excellent! You've completely grasped your brother's expression, but there's still some progress to be made on the voice. Try again.
Anything.
Perfect! You've done it! Let's take a little knowledge test. Don't forget to pay as much attention to your voice as to the answer. What's the first sign of the zodiac?
Aries.
Perfect. What zodiac sign rules the heart?
Leo.
Perfect. What common product is often used to avoid contagion?
Vinegar.
That's it. How do you determine someone's sign?
According to the position of the sun in his natal sky.
That's it, precisely. But we must expect changes in this respect, since our calendar is supposed to change before the end of the century.
What do you mean?
It's not precise enough. I think we're going to change our system of calculation. And, according to my predictions, we'll also eliminate 10 days, so that Easter will once again fall on April 21st, as it did a very long time ago. Oh, that won't change things much, but the signs of the zodiac will be shifted by 10 days.
So someone like Catherine de Medicis, who was born on April 13th, would no longer be a Taurus, but an Aries?
Exactly. All right, let's get back to the test. You still haven't convinced me that you are ready to undertake this strange adventure. What very rare animal matter crosses the seas before finishing in the hands of apothecaries?
Ambergris.
Exactly. Ambergris is a secretion of the sperm whale that's purified in the ocean for a good 10 years before it can be used. It has nothing to do with amber, which comes from the resin of trees. Very good, young lady. You've done well. Now it's time for me to show you how to perfect your outfit. Tomorrow morning, you're going to the chateau to meet the queen, and I want to be sure everything's perfect.
The earth hasn't shaken like that in a long time. This isn't a good omen.
I'm here to see Her Majesty Catherine de Medicis.
Enter. Her Majesty is expecting you.
You may enter.
Your Majesty?
César de Notre Dame, I am delighted to meet you. Your father must esteem you highly to send you to me. He must have explained to you how difficult I am to satisfy.
You are mistaken, Your Majesty. He would never have said such things.
Don't be afraid to be frank, my boy. When we are alone, I expect you to say what you mean. I need someone I can trust, and not another hypocrite. According to Chavigny, your father is the author of this quatrain. Yet, when I spoke to him of it, he didn't seem to remember. It would seem that these verses are becoming reality. I need to know how this story will turn out, and if misfortune can be avoided. A scribe has traveled from Moulins with me. He has noted all the tragic events that have occurred in recent days. He has the order to transmit to you any information you consider useful. He's waiting for you, next door.
Very well, Your Majesty. I shall do my best to solve this mystery.
I don't doubt it, César. You may leave now.
I almost forgot. It's for you. My father's idea.
He hasn't forgotten what a sweet tooth I have. Thank him for thinking of it, and thank you for preparing it. Go now, you have much to do.
César? You're really him?
To be sure.
I thought you'd be older. I'm surprised.
Don't worry. My father wouldn't have sent me in his place if he hadn't thought I was up to the task.
I didn't mean to offend you, sir. Your youth does you honor. Her Majesty asked me to give you this. These are the notes I took concerning the strange events of the last few days.
Since your arrival, have there been any new incidents?
Unfortunately, yes. Yesterday, Her Majesty's coachman, and this morning, the castle librarian.
You mean the latest victim is not part of the royal retinue?
It's true. I hadn't thought of that. But it's probably not very significant. The curse is following Her Majesty. There are but 4 deaths left, my young friend, before evil strikes the royal family itself. Let us hope you can thwart the plans of the devil, with the help of God.
Did you know the librarian?
Only slightly. We exchanged a few words, but nothing important. I only know that he'd been here just 10 days or so, and had a lot of work. The Archdiocese has many precious works, but till now, nothing had been done to classify them properly.
Did you notice any particular connection among the deceased?
They all belong to the retinue of the royal family, and therefore must have known each other. But beyond that, I don't see anything special permitting to establish a connection among them. But perhaps you will find helpful details in my notes. You know, I do not spend much time in the company of my fellow men, so sometimes I have a hard time understanding them.
Could I see the bodies of the coachman and of the librarian, and also the places where they found them?
The librarian, Philibert, was found in the scriptorium, but I had him carried to the chapel to prepare him for burial. So start by visiting the library. It's just at the bottom of the stairway. You'll see that the accident that killed him caused a great deal of damage.
And the coachman?
He has already been buried. What with fear of the plague, bodies have to be got rid of quickly.
I understand. Thank you for your assistance. Can you give me a brief summary of what happened?
Of course. On March 20th, the chambermaid of Princess Marguerite was found dead. The circumstances were suspicious. The next day, it was young Henry of Navarre's tutor. We all know that one misfortune leads to another, and that our Lord certainly has his reasons for calling his children back to him. But when, over the following 2 days, a lady companion of Her Majesty Catherine de Medicis, as well as the personal chef of King Charles IX, died in turn, the Queen Mother convened Jean-Aimé de Chavigny to ask his advice. That is how she came to learn of the quatrain written by your father, and decided to leave Moulins and the court to consult him.
Without the birth date, it's impossible to determine the astrological sign. The zodiac isn't complete, yet the astrological signs of the victims seem to follow in order. Without the birth date, it's impossible to determine the astrological sign. That must be where the librarian's body was found. There might be something important to discover. I'll have to clear it. It's locked. Perhaps it contains some of the librarian's things. This rope is too weak, and anyway, I don't need such a long one. This rope is too weak, and anyway, I don't need such a long one. This rope is too weak, and anyway, I don't need such a long one. This rope is too weak, and anyway, I don't need such a long one. I'll have to clear it. This rope is too weak, and anyway, I don't need such a long one. This rope is too weak, and anyway, I don't need such a long one. Now, that's better. At last I'll be able to examine up close the place where that poor Philibert died. He didn't lose enough blood to die from that. He must have passed away due to an internal injury. These books are magnificent. Luckily, they weren't damaged in the fall. Given the fall they've suffered, they ought to be in pitiful shape. Strange, this pile of sawdust. That's what I thought. The break is too clean to be due to wear. Someone sawed this shelf. Philibert's death was therefore no accident. But who within these walls would have a reason to kill him? Well before the Romans occupied France, the Celts, a pagan people from the north, claimed to be able to predict the future. It is said they built many underground temples, where they conducted dark ceremonies. So, Philibert was interested in the Celts and their temples. It's surprising that he'd spend time on this sort of thing, when the scribe said he had so much to do since his arrival.
Have you found anything interesting?
Jean-Aimé. I should have suspected you'd not be far away. I'm delighted to see you again in Salon.
I as well, young César. You've changed a great deal since our last meeting, and you must have made great strides, too, for your father to send you in his place, unless he's really in very poor health.
You can go visit him if you're worried about him. He'll be delighted to show you he's not yet an invalid. But to get back to this case, I've actually discovered that the librarian's death wasn't accidental. In any case, the shelf didn't fall on its own. It was sawed through.
Barely arrived and you already suspect a murder. You don't waste any time.
I'm merely observing. I'll draw my conclusions later. I haven't even examined the poor man's body yet.
It's in the chapel. I won't go with you. I've just come from there. And besides a head injury that must have caused his death, Philibert doesn't have much to show us anymore.
I'll make sure of that myself.
Well then, see you later, César. If you need help, I'll be in my office. Being the son of a talented man has never helped anyone prove intelligent.
I'll remember that.
I was joking, you know that. Oh, say hello to your charming sister when you get the chance. If she hadn't been a woman, I'm sure your father would have sent her instead of you.
Hey, it looks as if Jean-Aimé wasn't as rigorous in his observations as he'd like us to think. This confirms what I saw in the library. This wound scarcely bled. It was certainly not the cause of death. If I had any doubts left, they're gone now. Poison is the only explanation for the condition of his tongue. I wonder how this detail could have eluded Jean-Aimé, and especially, why go to so much trouble to make believe it was an accident? There's clearly someone around who has no problem taking things into his own hands. This closet must have contained something important if it was forced open like this. But what? Looks like that burglar forgot something. What's happening to me? It looked like the dead librarian. The first figure is illegible. All that's left is to piece together what was erased. What do you know? Looks like I found it. AMP 45. I wonder if it's best for me to see Chavigny as César or as myself.
César, I didn't expect to see you so soon.
I thought I heard you offer your help a little while ago, but maybe you've already forgotten.
Very well, I'm listening. What do you need?
Information, Jean-Aimé. Just some information. Philibert was interested in pagan rites. He was reading a text on Celtic oracles. Don't tell me you didn't notice it on his table.
Yes, I did indeed see it. The man had an obsession. He was convinced that this village used to be home to a vast community of pagan sorcerers. I think he was looking for their sanctuary.
And did he find it?
Certainly not. Those are mere fantasies. Absurd. Imagine, hidden underground sanctuaries, spirits. The man was just a heretic, a little crazier than the others.
In your opinion, who might have wanted to rummage through the affairs of a dead librarian, if not his assassin?
So, you still think it was murder?
His tongue is black. No need to open his stomach to know he was poisoned. I'm actually surprised you didn't notice anything when you studied the body.
Am I to understand you suspect me? Out of respect for your father and your sister, I'll not skew you on the spot. But leave this room immediately. We've nothing more to discuss.
Very well, Jean-Aimé, I'll go. But you won't be able to avoid the difficult questions forever.
Madeline, I'm delighted to see you. I hope you don't share your brother's suspicions about me.
In fact, I think that you and César should learn to get along. I'm not here to settle your quarrels. He's very busy, so I'm helping him a bit. And also, I took advantage of the opportunity to say hello to you.
Ah, a pleasant phrase at last. Well then, tell me how I can help you.
Do you know if he was writing a book himself? About pagan traditions, for example?
You'd do better to ask that question of your brother. He seems to know a lot about the subject.
I want to learn more about Philibert. Did you know him at all?
Barely. I ran into him twice in the library, but he seemed very busy with his new job.
And besides organizing and maintaining the books, what else did his work consist of?
Oh, he was doubtless in charge of acquiring new books.
Who discovered the body?
Me, very early this morning. He was stuck under the shelf, but his skin color told me instantly he was dead.
What position was he in?
Bent in two, as if he'd been seated at his table when the accident happened. My goodness, you take your part very seriously.
Yes, I try to. I really want to help my brother. This case is far from simple.
Let him do a bit on his own, then. Anyway, young lady, you'll get nothing more from me, at least as far as this sorry business is concerned.
Then goodbye for now, dear Jean-Aimé. What is there over here?
Nothing interesting, miss. For that matter, you're not authorized to go that way. Halt, miss. You have no business being there. Well, how did your encounter with Catherine de Medicis go?
Not too well, to tell the truth. But she still entrusted me with the quatrain that's at the root of the case.
Well then?
Morning on the court shall fall, when 12 times catastrophe has told. One by one, in their tombs they lie deplored, soon joined by those whom the queen adored.
I understand why she's worried, though I don't remember writing that quatrain. I know my memory plays tricks on me, but to that extent. Do you know where she got it?
Yes, from Chavigny.
Jean-Aimé, how is he? Did you see him?
He doesn't seem to be in a bad situation. But why did you part ways with him?
He wanted to accompany the court on its tour of France, but he was to come back one day or another.
It can't be said that his return is occurring under the most favorable of auspices.
To be sure. Did you notice anything else that's important?
I'm afraid that in the Queen's entourage, there's someone helping the prophecy come true.
What do you mean?
It seems that the librarian was poisoned. His tongue is black, and his wound hardly bled at all.
To be sure, but don't exclude fatality too quickly. There are those who would say that men are but the instruments of destiny, and that your discovery doesn't contradict the existence of a curse.
I recovered information on each of those in the Queen's entourage who died recently.
Very good. Were you able to deduct anything from that?
Except for Philibert, the chateau librarian, they all belong to the royal family's retinue.
Nothing else?
Yes. It looks like the victims died in the order of the zodiac. Their birth dates are not all known, but those that are seem to corroborate this thesis.
And what about the librarian?
I couldn't find anything in his personal effects allowing me to determine when he was born. But someone got there before me and forced open his closet.
Sounds as though things are getting more complicated.
If you could remember if you wrote that quatrain or not, it would help me a great deal.
To be honest, there's something in the verses that rings familiar, but I can't be sure they're mine.
Do you think that Chavigny could have lied?
There's only one way to find out. Certain products alter consciousness and permit deeply buried memories to emerge. As soon as night falls, go and find a mandrake. Generally, they grow under gallows and must be picked in moonlight. Do you have the mandrake?
Yes.
Perfect. In my office, you'll find the recipe for a powder to be burned in order to facilitate hypnosis. Also, prepare some sage wine to which you add a little mandrake powder. In the meantime, I'm going to rest. Wake me when you're done.
These look like old quatrains. This is the quatrain that was so famous after the death of King Henry II. Some people thought it was a prediction of his death, following an eye wound during a tournament. And yet, it seems to me that there was another one which better fit the circumstances. It's just as I thought. This quatrain could correspond much more readily to the death of Henry II. For that matter, I'm ready to bet that it's this one that will be associated with the event in the end. It must be ready. All I have to do now is heat the whole thing. It smells really good. I hope it'll work. Father, wake up. Everything's ready. What must I do now?
Give me the sage wine. Not bad for a first try. The quatrain, Madeline. Read me the quatrain again.
Morning on the court shall fall, when 12 times catastrophe has told. One by one, in their tombs they lie deplored, soon joined by those whom the queen adored.
That's not it.
Excuse me?
That's not what I wrote, but it resembles it. The images are still fuzzy, but the verses came to me near here. I was walking, I believe, and then I found it and wanted to write.
What did you find, Father?
It was on the ground, in the grass, full of little engraving.
What are you talking about?
The stone, Madeline. It's when I found the stone that I had the idea. But there were 2 quatrains, not one.
A stone? Did you keep it?
Yes, I think so. It's in the observatory, maybe. Take my medallion.
I assume that Chavigny always had access to your notes.
Of course.
But why did he only give one of the quatrains to the queen? Father, he's fallen asleep. 2 quatrains and an engraved stone. It's not much, but it's something to go on. I'm going to look into that stone tonight. As for the quatrain, if I don't find it here, I'll go take a discreet look in Chavigny's things tomorrow. Father always keeps this door closed. It's a shame. His observatory is definitely the place in the house that I prefer. It has to be a full year since I set foot in here, but it still seems just as magical to me. So here's the famous stone. It looks so much like the one that Philibert wrapped up so carefully, you'd think it was the same stone. But it's getting late. I'll clear this up tomorrow. The night wasn't very restful, and I fear that the day to come is likely to have more bad surprises in store for me.
Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well?
Not really, but that doesn't matter. What about you? How do you feel?
Famished.
That's a good sign. What would you like?
Bread. There's nothing better for restoring your strength.
Very well. I'll see what I can do. This system is really practical for kneading without getting too tired, but that's on the condition it works. When I have a chance, I'll go to the forge. Maybe I'll find something to repair it with. The metal isn't hot enough to be forged.
Who's there?
Hello, Smith. It's Madeline de Nostradamus.
What are you doing here?
Excuse me. I should have asked your permission before starting, but I thought no one was here. I need to repair a part for my mother's bread kneading machine. May I use your forge?
Of course, young lady, but you'll have to manage on your own. Since the plague struck our village, I prefer staying away from everybody.
That's a wise decision.
Yes, but we'll soon be wanting for food. When you finished repairing the bread kneading machine, I wouldn't say no to a little bread. My wife and children have empty bellies.
No problem. Perfect. I just have to cool the metal and it'll be finished. I have to let it rest now. Not yet.
Thank you, Madeleine.
Yes?
I brought you some bread.
Thank you very much.
I absolutely have to get into his office.
Hello, Cesar. How is your investigation going?
It's at a standstill, frankly. It's this quatrain thing that's bothering me.
Why?
My father can't seem to recall those verses.
That's hardly astonishing. Nostradamus is no spring chicken.
True enough. But don't you have a copy of the quatrain so I can show it to him?
I gave it to the Queen. For that matter, she must have given it to you, didn't she?
She did. But I hoped you might have a version that was, let's say, more complete.
Are you insinuating I'm hiding something on purpose?
I would never do that.
I would hope not. Now leave me, I'm busy, and I'm no longer in the mood for talking with you.
I find him awfully touchy for someone with nothing to hide. That must be the key to his office. I'd never be able to steal it without being noticed, but perhaps I could manage to make an impression of it. Joy-May, am I disturbing you?
Not in the least, my dear. What brings you here?
I like to walk here. The sight of all these books fascinates me.
I understand perfectly. I'd like to read them all, but I'm afraid I haven't the time.
What are those books behind you about? The ones that were near Philibert's desk?
Nothing in particular. I'm not even sure they were classified yet.
You seem to have a lot to do, so I'll let you work.
Very well. See you later.
Hello, scribe.
Madeleine de Nostradamus, I presume.
Indeed.
You shouldn't be here. You disturb the calm that prevails in this place. Your brother was authorized to go wherever he likes, but I've received no instructions concerning you. I would ask you therefore to leave, or at least not to bother me.
Smith?
What can I do for you?
I need to make a key from an impression, but I'm afraid it's kind of a difficult operation. Could you do it for me? I'd gladly do you a favor in return.
I don't know. What with the disease that's going around, I don't dare leave my house, though I would sorely like to. If you bring me one of your father's medicines, I'll make the key.
I'll go see with him about that.
No problem. I'll wait for you.
I'm looking for the recipe of a medicine to prevent catching the plague.
Unfortunately, there is no completely reliable miracle medicine. But I think that if my preparations are administered early enough, they're effective.
Tell me.
The easiest one to make is a vinegar to which you add garlic.
And that's enough?
Both products have antiseptic properties. A little vinegar every day is good for your health. As for garlic, it protects you from contagious diseases. But I also prepare a powder that gives off beneficial fumes. Unfortunately, I forgot the exact makeup. You should find the recipe and some ambergris on my desk.
It must be ready. have to do now is heat the whole thing. It must be ready.
Yes?
I have your medicine. Vinegar of the 4 Thieves. A spoonful per day prevents contagion.
Thanks, Madeline. You've lifted a great burden from me. Give me the impression of the key and come by later. I'll take care of everything.
No need to bother him for the moment. Is that my key sitting outside?
Yes, that's it. Take it. And thanks again for the bread and the medicine.
Thank you. Again? Locked. The Astronomia Magna of Paracelsus, AMP. What if Philibert's message referred to this work? Incredible, that Philibert. A star chart. That's interesting. I can't manage. So, Jean-Aimé, what's the mystery here? There's nothing more to be found in the writing desk, but perhaps Jean-Aimé has left some other interesting things around.
César, what are you doing here?
My job, Jaime, my job. My mission is to understand what's going on here. And it seems to me that you possess certain elements that could enlighten me.
That doesn't give you the right to search through my things.
Are you sure? Do you think we should ask the Queen's opinion about that? Her Majesty would surely be curious to know what you're hiding so carefully.
And to think I took you for a stand-up fellow, loyal and honest, like your father.
You really must take me for an ass. Do you think I'd fall for such hollow words?
Very well, Cesar, calm down. There's no need to go to the Queen Mother. What you found is the original version of the prophecy, written by your father. I gave her a version that was shorter, and above all, clearer. You know yourself how obscure Nostradamus' writings can be.
You pillage his labor and then you amputate it.
Simplified, I said. I just simplified it to make it more accessible. And in fact, my interpretation turns out to be right. Everything is occurring exactly as in my version of the prophecy.
To be sure. It's almost scary when you think about it.
What are you insinuating?
That I'll tell my sister to be on her guard.
Be very careful what you say, Cesar. You won't always be able to hide in the shadow of the Queen Mother or of your blasted family.
So, the mask has fallen at last, Jaime. I think we have nothing left to say to each other for now.
Oh my god!
So here's the 9th victim of that ghastly prophecy. You have to accept the obvious, Cesar. Nothing will check destiny.
Perhaps not, but I can defeat the one who is the instrument of that destiny. And in that respect, didn't you notice anything on your way back to your cell? You must have run into the murderer.
No.
That's really astonishing. You must have gotten here just a few seconds after his death.
First you search my things, then you accuse me of killing a man. I'm sorry your father isn't here. He'd make you eat those words.
Perhaps. Unless he shared my opinion. If he trusted you all that much, he wouldn't have sent me here. Whatever the case may be, we'll discuss it later. I've better things to do than quarrel.
The odor this letter gives off makes me think it comes from a woman. He most certainly was killed with a dagger. The one who did it must have had his trust. He could come close without the guard trying to defend himself. He most certainly was killed with a dagger. The one who did it must have had his... Interesting. A little less than a royal foot. The one I'm looking for has rather small feet and must have blood on the bottom of his shoes. In fact, it's surprising I can't find any traces of it around here. The murderer must have taken off his shoes to get away. Locked. No point in provoking Jaime. So this is where Catherine de Medicis' guards rest. It must be because of the weapons here that entry is forbidden. Brandy! If the guard emptied this today, it's not surprising he allowed himself to be stabbed without reacting. The blade that killed the guard surely came from here.
I just found the other guard, who was stationed on the second floor. He's dead.
My lord, who would have dared? Did you see anything?
Unfortunately not. I arrived too late. But he was surely stabbed.
Stabbed? I can't believe it. He was an exceptional fighter, especially in hand-to-hand combat. I shall let Her Majesty know as soon as possible. In the meantime, do what you can. I can't leave my post, whatever happens.
Do you know if he has a girlfriend?
I think he was seeing Catherine de Medicis' attendant, Constance.
Do you know where I can find the young lady?
Her room is behind you, on the right. She must be there now.
Did you know him at all?
Very little. He wasn't very talkative.
Constance?
Yes?
I'm César de Nostradamus. I'm conducting an inquiry concerning the deaths that have occurred recently.
Come in.
I have some bad news for you, mademoiselle. You were a good friend of the man who used to be the guard on the other side of this floor.
Jean? Why, yes. But why are you using the past tense? Oh, no! You mean that it was his turn? He's dead.
Unfortunately, I've been led to believe you were very close.
That depends on what you mean by close, young man. You want to know if we were lovers. Is that it?
I found a letter on him and, yes, that's it. Were you his mistress?
His mistress? If that were so, I obviously wouldn't be laughing like this with you, even if I find you very charming indeed. No, we were just lovers, but in fact, I hardly knew him. I'm sorry if I shock you, young César.
Not at all, mademoiselle. I'm merely surprised. It's the rose that made me misjudge your relationship.
A red rose speaks of passion, young man, which is very different from love. And men love to be flattered, do they not? Tell me, what is your favorite flower?
If you don't mind, we'll speak of petals later. A man has just died, and even if you weren't in love with him, you knew him sufficiently to be able to answer a few questions.
Charming. And domineering. You're a surprising young man, César.
What can you tell me about the dead man?
His name was Jean. He was a soldier in the personal guard of Her Majesty Catherine de Medicis, and he was a strapping and sweet fellow who appreciated women. There, I don't see anything else to add.
Have you heard of the prophecy?
The famous quatrain written by your father that promises us other deaths?
I thought that information was confidential. How did you learn of it?
I know of it, that's all.
Why are you here?
Because Her Majesty asked me to accompany her, of course. I am, let's say, her lady-in-waiting, that's it. Although that's not really my greatest talent.
I don't doubt it for an instant, Constance. But helping me doesn't seem to be among your principal qualities either.
To be sure, but a young man of such wit ought to know better how to get what he wants. César, I have a favor to ask of you.
Yes?
I know your father prepares love potions that are said to be very powerful. I have to admit, I'm curious. I have a piece of ambergris, which is supposedly an aphrodisiac, but I don't know how to prepare it. Take it and do what's necessary, and I'll be much more cooperative. And who knows, maybe you'll be tempted to try it.
That Constance is really something. Perhaps I'd better bring her the potion under my true identity, because as César, the situation could be a wee bit embarrassing.
You're home, sweetheart. It's night time already. I must have been asleep for ages.
That's true, but you must have needed the rest. How do you feel?
Tired, but I'll be all right. Well, young lady, how did your day go?
It was gloomy, to tell the truth. I searched Chevigny's office. What a shifty one he is. And then I discovered one of the guards dead, before I met a certain Constance.
Another death?
Yes, he was stabbed.
You have to hurry to uncover who is working to make the prophecy come true.
I found 2 quatrains written by you that are similar to the prophecy. But what's disturbing is that everything's happening exactly as in the quatrain corrected by Chavigny, and not as in the original verses.
Interesting. That leads one to think that either Chavigny's talents have developed, or that there's a killer inspired by his writings.
I'll try to learn more tomorrow. Oh, I also found among Jean-Aimé's things a chart with no name on it for someone born on December 13th, 1553, if I recall correctly.
Are you sure of that?
Yes. Why?
That date is familiar. I'd be ready to bet that I worked on that chart. Take this key and go and look in my desk drawer. I may have kept a trace of it.
I have to prepare an aphrodisiac for Constance, the Queen Mother's lady-in-waiting. Can you give me your famous recipe?
It's based on ambergris and mandrake berries, but as for the rest, my memory seems to be slipping. I gave the recipe to your brother. He must have kept it in his room. He's at that age, after all.
It looks like the same chart as the one I found at Chavigny's. And it's Queen Catherine's nephew's. But why is Jean-Aimé interested in Queen Catherine's nephew? And why secretly? This is most disturbing. Maybe if I examine the near future of young Henry of Navarre, I'll better understand the reason for so much mystery. And it will be a good opportunity to use the solar return machine. Not yet. Not yet. It was a full day. I'm exhausted. It looks like the earthquakes got the better of Cesar's treasures. I don't remember this chest being visible. Something's blocking it. Cesar clearly does not want people rifling through his things. It's blocked. It's blocked. It's blocked. Well, well, Cesar's hidden some constellations in the sky in his portrait. If I know him, this isn't just a coincidence. I'm not sure the contents of this chest merit such solid protection. This ingredient is too precious to be used if you don't know exactly what to do with it. This ingredient is too precious to be used if you don't know exactly what to do with it. This ingredient is too precious to be This ingredient is too Perfect. I think I've got it. The chart that I found at Chevigny's is Henry of Navarre's.
I knew that birth date was familiar. I suppose you calculated his horoscope.
I did indeed, and he's in danger. Given what I could glimpse of his future, I think this curse is just an excuse for attacking him.
That's possible. There are many people who would do anything to keep a Huguenot from ascending to the throne.
The best way to protect young Henry is to stop this sinister series of murders. For their plan to work, they have to kill 3 more people before turning their attention to the royal family. And if it doesn't appear to be the result of a divine curse, attacking him might be more delicate.
Very likely, but these people are capable of anything. Who knows? In their plan, we might be among their victims.
One more reason to put a stop to all this. Should we speak to the Queen Mother of it?
I'm not sure. I don't think she could be a part of this plot, but those who are pulling the strings could be very close to her. So long as we have nothing tangible, it's better to keep it to ourselves. But go and see her anyway. She would find it suspect that you make no report.
You know him well. Do you think Chavigny could be behind all this?
Not long ago, I would have answered no. But there are many disturbing things here, and after all, money and power can change a man. Don't trust anyone. The future is fickle, Madeline. If I had foreseen what is happening today, I would have sent you far away with your mother.
Philibert must have felt threatened. He left behind a little stone, almost the same as yours, and a paper with the letters A.M.P. followed by the number 45. That note led me to the Book of Paracelsus.
Philibert was a cultivated man, and what did you find in it?
A sheet covered with strange signs. In fact, it seemed like an alphabet. It was perhaps related to his research on Celtic symbols and to the engraved stones. The motifs were very similar.
Interesting. What book did you find that sheet in?
Excuse me?
The Astronomia is divided into 4 tomes, and from what I remember, the edition at the chateau doesn't bind them all in one book. Therefore, there are 4 separate volumes, and perhaps 4 notes by Philibert.
I'm here to see Her Majesty Catherine de Medicis.
Enter. Her Majesty has consented to receive you.
Come in, Caesar. Well, I'm listening. What have you found out?
I don't believe you're victim of a curse, although someone is trying to convince us you are.
What makes you say that?
First, the librarian was poisoned. But they want to make us think it was an accident. I deduce from that either the murderer was afraid of being discovered, or he thought an accidental death would go better with the prophecy. Second, I now know that the quatrain you saw is a shortened version of the prophecy my father wrote, and yet the events are taking place exactly as described in the short version. It seems to me that fate, if that's the force at work here, would hardly adapt itself to an edited text. He who inspires men's prophecies would hardly obey their quills. What do you think?
I think you have the same mind as your father. I agree with you. There's something not very coherent about this so-called curse.
Do you know who was aware of the quatrain you gave me?
Chavigny, of course, the king, and also my apothecary and myself. The king cannot be suspected, and my apothecary is dead. So on the list of suspects, I can only see your father's secretary, unless he showed it to someone else himself.
I'm going to speak to him about it.
As for me, I'll give the order not to let him leave the chateau, as long as this business isn't settled.
It seems to me that Constance also knew about the verses.
Yes, she had heard of them, but she doesn't know the precise contents of the quatrain.
Someone must have lost it recently. I didn't notice it. Maybe it's Chavigny. His door seems open. It would seem that there's a hidden room in the scriptorium.
Well, well. To what do I owe the honor of your visit?
A question, Jean-Aimé. I absolutely must know who was aware of your version of the quatrain. Someone is using it as an inspiration for murder. But the Queen says few people knew of it.
Do you mean she suspects me? And I suppose I owe that to you and your brilliant deductions.
If you're not guilty, help me find the murderer.
But how? Someone could have rummaged in my things and found the quatrain. You're not the only one capable of breaking in.
It's better to leave it at that for now. If he is indeed the killer, I'd be well advised not to spend too much time in his company. But I was so sure Philibert's key would work. It goes in, but won't turn. Looks like another volume of the Astronomia Magna, but it's empty. Someone must have been here before me, unless I made a mistake. The only way to be sure is to find another volume, and for that, a little more light wouldn't hurt. Book 2 of the Astronomia Magna. I knew my father was right. Philibert's message didn't concern a single book. I just have to find the last book of the Astronomia Magna.
Is anyone there?
I'd better not dawdle here. There's no point in everybody discovering this place. I'd better avoid Joy-Me. The guards aren't nearby, and there haven't been any deaths yet today. It's time to pay a visit on Constance. I still haven't brought her the aphrodisiac potion.
Caesar, at last! I thought you'd forgotten me.
How could I? I was supposed to bring you this, and I always try to do what I say.
The famous aphrodisiac potion of Nostradamus. Want to try it with me?
I beg your pardon?
The best way to judge its effectiveness is to drink it as a couple, isn't it?
Why not?
And to think I thought you were withdrawn. I'm pleasantly surprised. To your health, handsome Caesar.
Nonetheless, although you're utterly charming, we'll stop there. I'm not who you think I am, and I'm afraid I disappoint you.
Mysterious as well. Better and better. In spite of your young age, you seem to know women well.
I must have a certain gift for empathy.
Since you're playing hard to get, I've another sort of amusement to offer. But we need some small stakes to make it interesting. You'll have to give me a present every time you lose.
Very well. But if I win, you'll answer my questions.
All right. The principle is simple. I throw 5 dice, I give you the value of the total, and you have 5 chances to guess the value of each die. Of course, I'll give you some clues. The dice are cast. It's up to you. Obviously, arithmetic isn't your specialty. Exactly. You got it. I'm listening. What do you want to know?
I need to learn more about Philibert. Did you know him?
Yes, I did. We talked the evening before his death. He seemed rather worried and made a strange request.
I'm listening.
He wanted me to keep this medallion for him, as if he were afraid someone would steal it.
That's surprising. It doesn't seem to be a very valuable object.
The dice are cast. It's up to you. You've got the right value for one die only. You've got 3 dice right. You've got 3 dice right. You've got 3 dice right. You lost. Then you have to give me something. No, find something else. Now that's a good idea. It seems to me that our game isn't finished. The dice are cast. It's up to you. Obviously, arithmetic isn't your specialty. You've got 3 dice right. You've got 3 dice right. You've got the right value for 1 die only. You're giving up awfully quickly. The dice are cast. It's up to you. You've got 3 dice right. You've got 2 dice right. You've got 2 dice right. I'm listening. What do you want to know?
When did you learn what had happened?
You mean the deaths?
Yes.
The evening of our departure, when Catherine decided to go consult your father. I clearly remember her talking to me of the quatrain and of the danger threatening those around her. And then we went to rejoin the others.
Who exactly?
2 guards, Jean-Aimé de Chavigny, Catherine's apothecary, and of course, the coachman.
That's all? And the scribe, where was he?
I forgot him. He's so discreet. He joined us at the last minute and begged the Queen to take him along. I think he wanted to meet the Archbishop, but unfortunately, he's away on a journey.
You mean he knew where you were going?
Yes, I believe so. Do you think that's significant?
It could very well be. Thank you very much, Constance. You've been most helpful.
Everything is just like in my dream. The gallery risks collapsing. I'd do best not to stay. Too late! The gallery risks collapsing. I'd do best not to stay. Oh no! I hope he's just unconscious. No doubt about it. He's dead. Here I am, back at the beginning. If he's not the murderer, that leaves only Constance and Jean-Aimé. His lips are black. Perhaps he fell victim to the same poison as Philibert. It must be ink. The size is the same as the footprint. So the monk could have been near the guard when he died, and yet there's no blood on his shoes. And even if it is he who killed the guard, there's still a very much alive killer on the loose. It's unlikely I'll find anything interesting in the scribe's affairs. And to think that for a minute I took him for the killer. I'm going about this the wrong way. There has to be a logic to figure out. I'm going about this the wrong way. There has to be a logic to figure out. I'm going about this the wrong way. There has to be a logic to figure out. It can't be. These are exactly the quatrains Father wrote. Good evening.
Good evening, Madeline. You seem tired.
You could say that, but how are you this evening?
I must admit, I feel better, and I'm anxious to hear your story.
Have you ever dreamed the same dream several times?
What kind of dream do you mean?
I saw Philibert, the castle librarian. He was dead, and yet he was looking at me. In certain visions, he was simply sitting down, his eyes staring at me. But in others, I saw him make a sign to me to follow him into a gallery like the one I discovered today under the scriptorium.
That's disturbing. I've only had that sort of dream once, and it was after I found the inscribed fragment of stone.
The same stone that came from the gallery wall, just like Philibert's for that matter.
It would seem as if something's seeking to call out to us, particularly to you.
There was another death. This time it was the scribe, although I was certain he was part of the plot.
Perhaps you weren't mistaken. Perhaps he became bothersome.
Maybe. In any case, there are only 2 suspects left, Jean-Aimé and Constance.
And which one do you think is guilty?
Neither of them.
We'll see if the future proves you right, my girl. In the meantime, I have something to ask you. I have to work tonight in my observatory, but everything's in a frightful mess.
I've got it. I'll set to work right away.
Thank you, Madeline. I don't know what I'd have done without you. It's magnificent, Madeline. Don't you think so? I must say you don't disappoint me, young lady. You really do good work. Go rest now. You've certainly deserved it, and I actually need to be alone for a bit.
Father, do you believe that the deceased talked to us?
No, God alone knows the future. Of course, vast knowledge of the universe sometimes allows us to understand its rules and orientations as I do, but not the dead. Those are just superstitions.
Well then, how do you explain that I found ancient symbols in a gallery under the chateau, which, when translated, correspond word for word with the 2 quatrains you wrote?
What are you saying?
I'm saying there's a power here that's beyond us, which inspired the 2 quatrains at the root of this story. I'm also referring to Philibert, who talks to me in my dreams. I don't understand what's expected of me, and that's frightening.
Calm down, Madeline. I'm quite certain nothing will happen to you. Continue doing what you think is right. The key cannot be elsewhere. Go on to bed now and make yourself some eucalyptus tea. That will keep your bad dreams at bay. As for me, I'll try to understand what this destiny is that you must follow.
Good. It's ready. At last, a night without bad dreams. Hopefully, that means a day that'll be less macabre than the previous ones, unless it's just the effect of the potion.
Hello, dear.
Good morning, Father.
Did you dream again?
No, the herbal tea you suggested did its job.
Perfect. You're going to need all your energy today.
Did you find anything interesting?
Just as you thought, the danger hanging over the royal family most certainly concerns the young Henry of Navarre. The predictions I wrote down about this year didn't evoke a curse, but they weren't particularly positive either. And given the events that are occurring, they've taken on a whole new meaning.
What do you mean?
Amongst people, dissension, brutal enmity, war, death of great princes.
But Henry isn't the prince.
Yes, he is. He's the Prince of Navarre. But that's not the problem. Predictions are written to be interpreted and not considered simple truths. Imagine the danger they could represent.
What do I have to do?
I don't know, daughter. This time, I'm afraid I have no answer to offer you. According to my observations, you alone might possess one.
I don't understand.
Shortly before Catherine de Medicis arrived, I felt weak. If it hadn't been for that, I would never have sent you off on such an adventure. But today, I feel that it was supposed to happen that way. No one is prisoner of a destiny written in the stars, but some people bear in themselves extraordinary stories and destinies. However this story concludes, you will have an essential role to play in it before the end of the day. I worked on your chart again last night, and a recurring figure asserted itself as if it had kept vigil on your destiny since your birth, and especially today. It's a pentagram. You'll find out how pregnant with meaning this symbol is. And also, consider these words. The key is in the last one. They came to me in the middle of the night like something obvious.
I found a sheet hidden in the missal belonging to the dead scribe. It looks like a recipe, but I don't know what potion it could be.
Let me see. This is impossible. Madeline, the man isn't dead.
What?
This is for a potion allowing someone to feign death for several hours. It's remarkably effective, but very complicated to prepare.
I'd better be careful. If he's still alive, the scribe might be anywhere. A weapon in good condition would be reassuring. Perfect. I just have to cool the metal and it'll be finished. Father was right. The scribe is still alive. I'd better be careful. I might be one of his next victims. This would seem to be a note from Philibert. I wonder what in the librarian's research could interest the scribe. No, it can't be. This story is too morbid for me. All the people I approach die, one after another. I can't pull the sheet out. Her fingers are too stiff. They forced me to be their accomplice. Nostradamus, his son, and his assistant set the whole thing up. I can't bear having betrayed the crown, and I prefer eternal damnation rather than support the eyes of Catherine upon me. What a crock of lies! But it's a clever ploy. Accusing us was the best thing the killer could come up with to succeed in his sinister mission. I have to stop him at all costs.
Mademoiselle Constance.
I'd better not stay here.
Good Lord! Call out the guard! Those astrologers took us for dupes. Constance is dead and left a letter explaining she was their accomplice. You hurry to Nostradamus' house to arrest him. And you, take care of his former assistant. You can just lock him up in the guard room. If you need me, I'm going to notify Queen Catherine. We'll deal with the body later.
They're not wasting any time. And even if the letter accuses Nostradamus and Jean-Aimé, I'm afraid neither of my two identities will protect me. The only way to help my father is to elucidate this case and to convince Catherine of his innocence. And to do so, I'm still missing a few elements.
Who are you? And what do you want of me? I have nothing to confess.
Shh, not so loud. I wouldn't be so sure if I were you.
Madeline, is that you?
Yes, I think so.
But you can also call me César, if you feel like it.
What the...
Don't make that face. César was away, and Catherine would never have accepted that a young girl conduct the investigation. In any case, I sure fooled you.
You did indeed.
We have no time to lose. They arrested you after they found the body of Constance and a letter in which she said she committed suicide, overwhelmed with remorse after helping you and my father engineer this curse from top to bottom.
That's absurd. Why would we have done that?
Why, to destabilize the crown. Between the astrologer and the heretic, there is just a thin line that someone is trying to push you across very quickly. The killers are powerful people, Jean-Aimé. They're after the young Henry of Navarre, the one whose chart you were to do.
But I told you, I didn't know.
That doesn't matter. What counts is who asked you to do it. I have to know now. The guards must already have arrested Nostradamus, and I'm the only one who can get you out of this mess. So talk.
If it's the one who ordered the chart who's behind all this, then we won't get out of it.
Don't be so sure. But for God's sake, tell me who it is.
The Cardinal of Lorraine. The Duc de Guise.
I'm not surprised. If you had had the time to establish young Henry's chart, you'd understand.
If the motive is in the chart, your reasoning doesn't hold water, since I never gave it to him.
You're not the only person who can do a chart. Did you know the scribe well?
Well, no. We chatted a bit when we walked. He was pious and cultivated, your classic monk scribe. Nothing unexpected.
You can use the present tense, and as for the unexpected, try this. He's not dead. In fact, he was surely the one who murdered Philibert, then the guard, and Constance.
But that's impossible. I helped carry him into the chapel.
He took a potion to simulate his death. Father says that those who know of preparations like that are very rare indeed. Do you think he had that sort of knowledge?
No. Besides your father, I've only known one man who knew as much about plants and their properties. Catherine's apothecary. But he's dead.
During your journey here, on the road, in the middle of the night. Is that right?
Good Lord.
I no longer have one murderer to deal with, but two.
Be careful, Madeline.
Don't worry, and remain calm. It'd be a shame to get yourself skewered before I prove your innocence. I need to learn more about the symbolism of the pentagram.
Go look in my office. You should find an engraving of a pentagram there. It's a 5-pointed star, set in a circle. It can symbolize the magic of the heretics, just as it can knowledge, the 5 elements, or the association of the feminine and masculine principles.
Interesting.
But why that question?
According to my father, the chart of my sky curiously resembles a pentagram.
Androgyny is indeed a countenance you bear well. You really are a young woman full of surprises.
Rivers flowing with evil shall be obstacles, the old flame of ire unappeased. If memory serves, that's the last quatrain, the last prophecy. What if it was these verses that Father was referring to before? I have to be sure. Jean-Aimé won't mind if I borrow this page.
What do you have to tell me, monk, that is so urgent?
I have come to tell you, my father is innocent of all of which he is accused.
Why am I only slightly surprised to see you enter my rooms disguised like this?
Perhaps you already suspected that César and I are one and the same, and that another disguise, when you come down to it, is hardly surprising. Or maybe you just didn't really believe in Nostradamus's guilt, and one way or another, you were awaiting my arrival.
I think you owe me an explanation.
I have not come to defend my own head. Neither my father, nor Chavigny, nor poor Constance betrayed you.
That's all you've found?
I know that no explanation will satisfy you completely, so the only way to convince you is to catch the real guilty party.
And how do you intend to do that?
I discovered a gallery under the chateau that must date from the time of the Celts. According to the notes I found in the rooms of the person I suspect, he knew of its existence and thinks there's a treasure hidden there. I intend to lure him down there. If my observations are correct, the shafts that illuminate the gallery also permit sound to carry. You should be able to hear us from the chapel.
I have, in fact, noticed odd noises.
You've nothing to lose by letting me try. If I'm mistaken, or don't manage to convince you, we both know that I have little chance of escaping.
You're very clever. What proves to me you won't try to run away?
My father is in the custody of your guards, and as odious as he may be, Chavigny is my friend. Anyhow, there's no way out that isn't in clear sight of your guards.
Very well. So will you tell me at last who your mysterious suspect is?
Someone so clever that today he seems above suspicion.
You make far too much of a mystery of it for me.
What's the best way to be suddenly cleared of any suspicion?
To have someone else accused in your place. To pass for a victim.
Exactly, Your Majesty. Pretend to be dead. If you send someone to check, you'll see the scribe's body is not in the chapel.
But how is that possible?
With an accomplice like your apothecary, many things become possible.
So he is alive also.
I don't know that, but he must have taught the scribe some of his secrets.
I can't say your explanation has convinced me, but I will let you try your luck.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
I'll leave you a little time, but don't take too long to put your plan into action. When you hear the bells toll, you'll know I'm not far. That will be the moment, if ever, to make him talk. One last question, nonetheless. How did you discover the existence of those underground galleries?
It's Philibert, the chateau librarian, who found them. Till now, I've just followed in his footsteps. According to his notes, he was about to discover a sanctuary when he died. That's where I have to take over.
Don't let me down, young lady. I am not always so indulgent. Oh, I was about to forget. You don't need all your disguises anymore. Give them to me. I prefer to know you're dressed as a young woman, rather than have a chameleon in the household.
Very well, Your Majesty. In his notes, Philibert speaks of pagan sites of worship over which churches and chapels were built. If that's the case of the sanctuary he was looking for, there might be one near here. I have the feeling I'm on the right track, but I'm still missing an essential element.
I may have what you're looking for, but first... Don't worry about the dizziness. It'll pass quickly. Unless you're very sensitive to poison, dear Madeline.
What?
I made you swallow a few drops of a preparation that is, shall we say, particularly noxious. If you cooperate, I shall give you the antidote. Otherwise, you'll merely be one more victim.
How could I trust an assassin?
You have no choice. I don't know exactly what you found in Philibert's affairs, but I'm sure you're looking for the same thing I am.
What are you talking about?
Don't waste your time. You haven't much left. There is a sanctuary somewhere under this chateau, which must surely contain a treasure. And considering how interested you are in the late Philibert's research, you surely have an idea on how to find it.
No, I don't know where it is, nor even if it really exists.
Of course it does. The librarian wasn't the type to get excited for no reason. There's a very good chance we can get into it from this chapel. At least that's what he thought. Look at what I found on the altar. I'm sure it's related to the treasure.
That figure again. The figures inscribed on the glass are set at the tips of the pentagram's 5 points, like in Jean Aimé's engraving.
Well?
I don't know yet. think it's where it should be. I think it's where it should be. Unbelievable. Once again, Father's predictions turn out to be exact. He thought I had a special part to play in this adventure, but from there to imagine that my first name would be the key. Now, I have to figure out how to put this to use. Why did you kill Philibert? A victim closer to Queen Catherine would have fit better with the idea of a curse.
We had already met a long time ago. There was a risk he'd raise suspicions about me if he revealed the circumstances of that encounter. Also, I knew he wasn't here by chance. He has always pursued ancient ruins, so I could both serve the curse and find a treasure. How could I resist? To tell the truth, I almost abandoned the quest, until I realized you were also on the trail of the prize. So I decided to let you search for me.
How can a man of God stoop to such crimes?
For gain, as well as from conviction. All right now, enough talking. If you want to live, you'd better find my treasure, and time's running out.
Perhaps. I'll go see.
Again. It just doesn't stop. That has to be the 12th one in just a few days.
12? You're sure of that?
I'm pretty sure.
When 12 times catastrophe has told, what if the prophecy referred to the earthquakes and not to deaths? So those quatrains might end up fulfilling themselves. Oh, the poison's beginning to weaken me. I have to hurry.
I knew you'd be able to deal with these pagan inventions. You're a veritable witch.
Every sign, one by one, in the tomb. There are tombs under each of these columns, and signs on all the capitals. It looks like the prophecy is proving true. A thousand treasures in their fall revealed, in a secret place concealed, of which, when the power of light increases, in this temple to chaste eyes, the invisibility ceases. If the quatrain is true, the chaste eyes of the Virgin will show me where the treasure lies.
Perfect. Go down first. There may be some obstacles to get around, and it seems to me you've a talent for that.
The bells. The Queen will be arriving any minute now. I have to find this treasure in a hurry. Once his greed is satisfied, the monk should prove more willing to talk.
Hurry up. Get down.
I wonder when this statue dates from. If Philibert had been here, I'm sure he would have been able to say. Still, though, no trace of a treasure.
So?
I'm searching! The room is small, but maybe there's a passage I haven't yet noticed.
It's marvelous. Gold. Nothing but gold.
You have your treasure at last. Give me the antidote.
I'm impressed. I didn't think you would get this far alive. Unfortunately, I'm sure you'll understand that I can't let you leave.
You're nothing but a vulgar murderer.
That's true, but somebody has to accomplish the dirty work. And look how God has rewarded me with all this wealth.
You're not working for God, but for a man who's thirsting for power, the Cardinal of Lorraine, who's planning to kill young Henry of Navarre because he's afraid he could ascend to the throne someday.
You are decidedly more clever than I had thought. To be sure, Henry must die, and Queen Catherine, who is far too clement with the reformists, must be forced once and for all from power. And believe me, after all these murders of which your family will be accused, her gullibility will be apparent, and even the king, her son, will no longer be able to trust her.
What I really think is that your words and your greed will cost you. You should have left this morning. The Queen knows you're alive, and after the confession you've just made, you won't survive for very long after me.
What?
Her Majesty must be in the chapel now, listening to your sinister words.
That's impossible.
Now dark clouds no longer threaten our future nor the future of the royal family. All that took place in this temple has metamorphosed the course of time.
And the scribe? What was his fate?
He disappeared under all the rubble, and you yourself had great luck to escape from there in time. The last aftershock was terrible.
I'll never let you put yourself between me and my treasure!
This sanctuary was profaned a long time ago. Since that day, the Sidhe awaits your coming. You have accomplished the sacrifice that at last returns it to peace, at least for the moment.